He had it all, or at least he thought he did. The sprawling villa on the Palatine Hill, the seat in the Senate with its immense influence, the respect of his peers, the life he'd spent decades carefully building, stone by stone. And then, in the space of a single afternoon, it was gone. A shift in political favor, a rival's whispered accusation. The whys didn't even matter. He was left with this hollowed-out feeling, a sense of powerlessness that felt heavier than any loss of fortune. He had spent his entire life playing a game he thought he was winning, only to realize in the deafening silence of his new reality that he'd been playing the game all wrong. It was only then, at his lowest point, that he stumbled onto a secret already ancient in his own time. A principle from an emperor who, despite ruling the most powerful empire on earth, faced war, plague, and heartbreaking loss, yet found a source of unbreakable strength. This was the rule that would show the man where his real power had been hiding all along. Before the fall, his life was one relentless climb. His entire identity was welded to his public honors. A new appointment was a shot of pure adrenaline. A nod of approval from the emperor was proof that he was worthy. He'd essentially outsourced his happiness to the opinions of the forum and the shifting sands of political power. This meant he lived in a constant state of low-grade anxiety, a prisoner to outcomes he just couldn't fully control. A delayed grain shipment, a rival's successful speech, a dip in his family's influence. These external things had the power to hijack his inner peace. He was constantly trying to control the uncontrollable, and it was exhausting. He thought, like so many of us do, that being strong meant being in control. It meant bending the world to his will and building a fortress of external validation so high that nothing could ever touch him. He mistook the scaffolding for the foundation. He spent his days chasing applause, not realizing that true peace of mind can't be built on something so flimsy. He was sacrificing his most precious, non-renewable asset, his time, for things that could be, and were, taken away in a heartbeat. He was profoundly successful by every metric Rome valued, and yet he was weak, dependent on 1,000 things outside of his own mind. The weeks that followed were a blur of confusion and despair. The silence was the worst part. The non-stop river of clients, messengers, and petitioners that had been his life had just stopped. And when he was finally left alone with his own thoughts, they weren't great company. He was haunted by regrets about the past and paralyzed by fear of the future. His sense of self, once so solid, had vanished along with his titles. Then one sleepless night, searching through old scrolls in his study, he saw a passage. It was so simple, but it stopped him dead in his tracks. It was from the emperor, Marcus Aurelius, and it read, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He read it again, and again. Not outside events. That one phrase flew in the face of everything he'd ever believed. All his energy had been aimed at controlling outside events, at managing what people thought, at forcing the outcomes he wanted. And it had all come crashing down. Now here was a philosopher king, a man who commanded armies, admitting that real power isn't out there in the world, but in here, in the mind. This wasn't a call to give up. It was a radical redefinition of power. The Stoics call it the dichotomy of control. Some things are up to you, and some things are not. Your thoughts, your judgments, your choices, how you decide to act, those are in your command. But the economy, what other people do, your reputation, even your health to some degree, the past, the future, those are not. For years, he had been fighting a war on the wrong battlefield, pouring all his energy into a struggle he was always going to lose. That passage wasn't just an idea, it was a diagnosis. It explained the source of his anxiety and his frustration. He had tied his happiness to things he could never truly own. Realizing this didn't fix his problems overnight, but it was the first crack of light in a very dark room. It was the moment he stopped waiting for a life raft and started swimming for the shore. Does any of this sound familiar? Have you ever had a setback that made you question everything you thought you knew about success? If this resonates with you, take a second to drop a comment below and just write, "I control my response." It's more than just words. It's a powerful declaration. Now let's get into how he started to actually use this ancient wisdom. Now, understanding this rule is one thing. Actually living it, that's a whole different ballgame. It requires rewiring the habits of a lifetime. The first test came quickly. A petition for a minor magistracy he was well suited for was rejected. The old him would have spiraled. He would have obsessed over every word of his petition, cursed the magistrate, and felt his world shrink. But this time, he paused. He remembered the emperor's words. The magistrate's decision was an outside event. It wasn't in his control. So what was in his control? His response. He let himself feel the sting of disappointment for a moment. That's only human. But he refused to let it define him. He made a choice. I will not be harmed by this. And just like that, the rejection lost its power. Instead of a judgment on his worth, it was just information. Okay, that door's closed. Time to find another one. He started guarding his thoughts like a soldier at a gate. When anger toward his political rivals bubbled up, he'd stop and ask himself, is this useful? Is dwelling on this in my control? The answer was always no. He learned to let those thoughts pass by without agreeing with them. He discovered that the real power, the real freedom, was in the gap between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. He started focusing only on his own actions. He couldn't control if a powerful patron favored him, but he could control the quality of his studies. He could control the time he spent learning from the philosophers. He could control being present and kind with his family, who had been on the sidelines for so long. He started offering his knowledge of the law to local merchants, not for the status, but because he actually enjoyed the work. He focused on the effort, not the outcome. Day by day, he was pulling his sense of self-worth back from the world and anchoring it inside himself. He was learning that the obstacle in the path becomes the path. So, months went by, and on the outside, his life didn't look anything like it used to. He hadn't regained his seat in the Senate. His wealth was a fraction of what it was. By his old metrics, he was a failure. But on the inside, he had never been stronger. The constant gnawing anxiety that had been his shadow for years was just gone. In its place was a quiet confidence. He was no longer a puppet of praise or criticism. He had found a source of strength that no political shift or treacherous rival could ever touch. He finally understood the Stoic rule most men learn far too late. Your power is not in your title, your fortune, or what people think of you. Your power lies in your mind. It's the unshakable freedom that comes from knowing the difference between what you can control and what you can't, and pouring every ounce of your energy into what you can. Men spend their lives building empires on sand, chasing external validation, trying to force the world to bend to their will. Then the inevitable storms of life roll in, and they're broken. They realize too late that the only fortress that can withstand any storm is the one you build inside yourself. This is the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, and the challenges we face today: job insecurity, social pressure, personal setbacks. They're just modern versions of the same battles he fought. The solution, then, is also the same. Stop wrestling with outside events. You can't control the whims of the powerful, the state of the economy, or a stray rumor in the forum. You can only control your response. This isn't about being passive or emotionless. It's about being strategic. It's about saving your energy for the only fight that matters, the one for your own mind. When you truly get this, you don't just find strength, you become strength. You become the person who can face anything with calm, with clarity, and with a peace that the world can't give you, and therefore can't take away. This journey from chasing outside approval to building inner strength is the most important one any of us can take. It's the difference between a life of quiet desperation and a life of genuine freedom. And the best part is, the tools aren't new. They've been sitting here for 2,000 years, just waiting for us to pick them up. If this message hit home for you, and you want to keep exploring how to use this practical wisdom to build an unshakable mind, make sure you subscribe. This is a daily practice, and we're here to walk the path with you. Click that subscribe button, and let's continue the journey together.